let's talk about the WNBA and the league's demise now that Caitlin Clark is no longer going to play this season. The WNBA and the Indiana Fever, Stephanie White, Amber Cox, all the way up and including, let's just keep it real, Kathy Engelbert, Adam Silver, the National Basketball Association, everybody that participated in the farce.
Caitlin Clark's season is officially over, and the WNBA has no one to blame but itself. What started with a quad strain in May spiraled into repeated groin injuries through June and July, followed by a bone bruise in August. 13 games in, her body couldn't take any more. This isn't just Clark's personal heartbreak, it's a league-wide catastrophe. Weak officiating, poor communication, and relentless targeting of the league's brightest star created the perfect storm. Now fans are furious, demanding answers, refunds, and even threatening boycotts. And the league's response? Silence. No accountability, no protection, no plan. How did the WNBA allow its biggest draw to break down so quickly? And where does Commissioner Kathy Engelbert stand in all this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is the WNBA responsible for Caitlin Clark's downfall?
Caitlin Clark, out for the remainder of the 2025 season, something we all think we knew was coming after what Stephanie White said earlier today. We couldn't be too sure until we see it for ourselves. And with this announcement from the GOAT's mouth herself, Caitlin Clark won't be returning this season, nor if the Indiana Fever make the play.
How many times did refs just stare straight ahead while Clark was shoved into a screen, yanked by the jersey, or flat out knocked off balance, only to act like it never happened? That's what eats at fans. Everyone saw it, play after play. Clark getting hammered coming off curls, thrown into help defenders, even double-teamed before she touched the ball. The officials had endless chances to blow the whistle. Instead, they swallowed it, until it became a pattern so obvious that the Washington Post eventually put it in writing. This wasn't one team playing physical. It was the entire league taking liberties with a player who instantly became the face of the sport.
Well, it all started last year, in her rookie season, where she received 20% of all the flagrant fouls in the league. And most of them came from Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky. And these weren't basketball plays. They were not only fouling her, but they were getting up, laughing about it, laughing about Caitlin Clark getting assaulted. Any other work environment, people go to jail for what's going on.
The league's most valuable asset, the player single-handedly driving half the WNBA's rating surge, was left completely unprotected. Think about that. One star packing arenas in Dallas, Vegas, New York, and Chicago should have been treated like the investment she was. Instead, while networks paid record money to air her games, officials refused to give her even the baseline respect every other star receives night after night in other leagues. What fans saw was non-stop off-ball collisions, hand-checking that killed her cuts before they started, and defensive contact that would have been a foul for anyone else.
The WNBA and all the people that follow the WNBA and try to promote the WNBA don't understand that Caitlin Clark's game resonates with us. I say this every day, and every day I got to deal with somebody else dumb in the media. Caitlin Clark's game resonates because she's got flair, she's got flash, she's got style. I said this before, and I'll say this again. We saw Sue Bird's game. We saw Diana Taurasi's game. Kim Mulkey was Sue Bird before Sue Bird became Sue Bird. We've seen it. We haven't seen Caitlin Clark.
This wasn't just frustrating to watch. It was dangerous. Constant cheap shots don't just leave a player sore. They pile up week after week, wearing down already strained muscles. Clark's quad flare-up in May and the groin issues that lingered through June weren't mystery injuries. They were the direct result of repeated hits, twisted pivots from denied space, and unprotected landings. Those are exactly the kinds of stresses that turn minor strains into long-term damage. And yet, she was pushed to keep playing, because the alternative meant empty arenas and disappointed fans who had already paid to see her.
Last year, I noticed how much it was just Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark was taking all the hits. Caitlin Clark was taking all the abuse. But this year they've added Sophie Cunningham. She gets more flagrant fouls on her than anybody in the league besides Caitlin Clark. And Aaliyah Boston, she's been taking hits as well. But the worst thing is the consistency. So they don't call flagrant fouls, or most of the time, Caitlin Clark could be held for an entire game at a time. They don't call fouls. They don't call common fouls.
That's why fans call it hypocrisy. The WNBA proudly paraded record ticket sales, sold-out merchandise, and new sponsorships built on Caitlin Clark's name. But when it came to the simplest responsibility, protecting the very player driving those paydays, they treated her like just another rookie. She wasn't by letting her get battered night after night. The league didn't just jeopardize game outcomes, they jeopardized the entire season. Analysts, NBA players, media voices across the board have said the same thing. Her game is unique, dynamic, and magnetic. Diana Taurasi may have dismissed her, but fans know better. Clark shoots from deep, she wins. She carries energy no other WNBA player has brought before. She's the league's Steph Curry. Oh, what happens when your golden goose stops playing? When referees swallow the whistle and your brightest star ends up limping instead of leading fast breaks. We just got the answer. Negligence from officials didn't just skew box scores. It laid the foundation for Clark's season-ending collapse. And the fallout didn't stay on the court. It spread. Fans are angry, media is calling out failures, and sponsors are taking notice. Looking back, was her sophomore season doomed from the start? It feels that way now. Even in training camp, reports surfaced of her quad tightening, the kind of injury most players would rest. Instead, she was pushed into every practice, every media event, every marketing rollout. Weeks later, that strain escalated into a groin injury. By July, it was a full-blown tear. And then came the announcement nobody wanted. Caitlin Clark was done for the year. This wasn't one freak moment. It was a chain of bad decisions that left her no chance to recover. A gut punch that sums up not just her season, but the Fever's as well. One injury after another, capped by the loss of the league's biggest star. None bigger than Clark. After her spectacular rookie year, fans had been waiting for this second season, and the hope of a comeback. Instead, that anticipation has been crushed, draining energy from not just Fever supporters but from the entire WNBA. The most frustrating part? She never really had a stretch of games where she was fully healthy. She was listed as day-to-day at least 3 different times, each one softened with the word precautionary, as if that meant reassurance. But in the WNBA, precautionary apparently meant squeezing in limited treatment, taping up, and rushing back on court the same weekend. It was like watching someone run on one leg and being told they were fine. Clark, a 2-time All-Star and 2024 Rookie of the Year, was sidelined after suffering a right groin injury during the Fever's 87-77 win over the Connecticut Sun on July 15th. If you remember, she carried Indiana in the closing minutes of that game. Later, she also suffered a bone bruise while trying to recover. That's where the mismanagement becomes impossible to ignore. Anyone who follows sports knows injuries compound if you don't let them heal. Pushing her into back-to-backs, under relentless defensive targeting, while traveling non-stop, it didn't just risk setbacks, it guaranteed them. Coaches had to see she wasn't herself. Her drives lost explosiveness, her cuts slowed, her face showed the pain she tried to push through. She never should have logged those minutes. The medical staff's job was to protect her, even if Clark insisted on playing. Instead, they failed her. Caitlin has worked so hard throughout this time, doing everything possible to recover and return to the court. But ultimately, time is not on our side, Fever COO and GM Amber Cox said. While we will continue working with Caitlin and provide her with every resource, there is not enough time left in our season for her to safely return. Her long-term health and well-being remain our top priority. We look forward to having her back at full strength. Clark is now expected to return at full strength to start the 2026 season. In her shortened campaign, she appeared in just 13 regular season games, averaging 16.2 points, 8.8 assists, and 5 rebounds, while still managing to lead Indiana to the 2025 WNBA Commissioner's Cup title. Behind the scenes, she poured countless hours into rehab, grinding in the gym, building strength around the injury, clinging to the hope of a comeback. But every time she made progress, her body failed to respond. Fans were fed a steady stream of probable return reports, while inside the locker room it was clear she wasn't close to 100%. Stadiums continued to market road games with her name, and fans kept buying tickets expecting to see her play. That disconnect stings. When Clark finally addressed the situation, her words made the reality painfully clear. "I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season. I spent hours in the gym every day with a singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling. I want to thank everyone who had my back through all the uncertainty. This has been incredibly frustrating, but even in the bad, there is good. The way fans continue to show up for me and the fever brought me so much joy and perspective. I'm proud of how this team has only gotten stronger through adversity. Now it's time to close out the season and claim our spot in the playoffs. So the question lingers, was revenue prioritized over her health? Looking at the way she was marketed, pushed, and played while hurt, it's hard to conclude anything else. The fever relied on her to fill arenas. The WNBA relied on her to drive ratings. And in the end, the league's most valuable star paid the price.